Good evening.
How's it going?
I'm not too bad. How are you getting on yourself?
I'm getting better.
Yeah, same kind of here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This is one of the other joys of doing internet radio type podcasty show things, that we can't give any nasty diseases to you, which is really quite nice.
Or each other.
Or each other. I've had the old COVID this week passed again, so it's been a bit of pest. Davy's had a couple.
I've had conjunctivitis and a chest infection.
Yeah. But there you go, show business and all that. Here we are, folks. The weekly show, heading towards our 250th guest now, and after that it'll be 300, and on we go. But it's been a brilliant week. Sorry to see the British Pipe Band Championships had to be cancelled. Right enough. That's a shame.
Oh, do you watch a shame?
I offered my front garden in Shetland.
They consider
but
it.
The only thing would have been one band at a time, unfortunately. That would have been, but it could have kept going. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen out there, we've got a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. So please keep sharing about. There's a lovely number of folk joining already. That's great, but any more shares is all the better. Remember, you can watch us on any of the Facebook channels we're on Twitter, and if you want to watch us on the big screen, jump onto your telly and look up YouTube and look up Tartan Tunes, and we're in there as well. So, and you can't catch anything either, so it's all right. It's fine.
No viruses this way.
So we've got a brilliant guest this week. Who have we got?
We've got David Foley.
Yeah, it's going to be some great music.
This will be our second flautist.
Flautist. That sounded very good.
Flautist. And our second flautist, but first Baran player.
Is it?
Well, go.
All right, okay.
In my time, anyway.
Oh, well, you can...
My time.
David can be the holder of that gong for as long as it goes then. Well, that's fine. The Tartan Tunes Baran gong. We'll have to get one. It's a bit difficult to say. But and of course, David was a member of the very, very famous band Rura.
I remember.
Which I was saying to you is absolutely fantastic, but would be difficult to pronounce if you struggled to say your R's.
Wooa.
Wooa. And the Life of Brian, Monty Python's Life of Brian, the old emperor might have had a bit of a job introducing them. But never mind. It's good.
So maybe when the US Marines are saying woo-wah, they've all got a lisp and they're all shouting Rura.
That's it. See, it's free advertising all over America. You've started a new trend again. That's fantastic.
So last week we announced the winner of the Young Trad merely minutes after that happened, because we're that on the pulse.
Oh, we're on the pulse.
We're on the pulse. And it was the lovely Shetland pianist Amy Lawrenson.
Yeah. Stayed across the Vaux for me for about 25 years. Well, she's probably not even 25 yet. But...
I don't think she is 25. So what we've got here is a wee snippet. It's only 1 minute 50 of her performance of the tunes Tommy's Turbucus by Arthur Fraser and the start of Trip to Miriam's by Colin Farrell. I don't think it's the same Colin Farrell that's the actor. See,
just before we do this, we take a hunt. The dog's just arrived on the scene. But before we do this, Amy, in all the years I've known her, and Amy went originally to study the classical course at the Conservatoire, and then she changed over to the traditional course. But I think there's a lot of admiration to be said for what she's doing, because yes, she's playing the piano and she's playing traditional stuff, but I would say she's nearly playing it in a new way. But it's not over the top at all. It's not varying. It's not going doolally and went away for the thing altogether. It's just beautiful playing and really, really well arranged. So, yeah, well done to her. Congratulations, Amy.
Here we go. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, brilliant. Really good playing. I'm sure if you want to watch the whole of that performance, you can. It's all on, is it not?
Yes, all on the BBC website, the Trad website.
Yeah.
If I'd thought about that sooner, I could have grabbed some more tracks, but Trad.
But there we go. So you can jump on and see that. Viola says she's heard me this is the second time today she heard me from Shetland's own space station earlier.
You could just call it You could just call it Scotland Space Station.
By the way, there's no truth in the rumour at all that they're going to launch rockets using peat as a fuel, so don't believe that at all. It's nothing to do with not peat and diesel, no diesel either. Diesel. Yeah,
Yeah, you and Pete and Diesel.
Yeah, so there was a squad out apparently up Hell as Brian and me playing strange things. So that's excellent. That's good.
So you're saying that there was a load of guys dressed as Peter Griffin?
Thanks. That's why I'm on this big diet, to try and not look like Peter Griffin anymore. Right. So let's face it, Peter Griffin's never bothered to try and learn the accordion. So.
Has he?
Well, maybe. Right. Tell us. We're going to bring a guest on. Go for it. Go for one of your amazing.
I always do. You go for it.
No, I don't. Your build-ups are far better than mine.
Oh, Jesus. We have not only a guitarist, not only a flautist, and not only a baran player.
There's more.
There's more. He is the current model for Vidal Sassoon. He is also.
I didn't realise that.
He is also a Victoria's Secret model, but we keep that on the QT. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Glasgow, the West End, Mr. David Foley.
Hi, David. How you doing?
Welcome, Rick. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Nice to be here.
I like how he dropped in. Is that the modelling bit because he's the West End of Glasgow? If he was the East End, he'd be nowhere near it.
Well, I'm currently residing in the great parish of Govan. So, although I was a West End boy when I was younger, I'm a Govan boy. Well, they wouldn't call me that now. But.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight. We've got some great tracks, and we're looking forward to a chat about what got you into all this stuff and how you're keeping it going, because it's been pretty successful for yourself so far. So it's great to see that.
Thank you.
I see Davy's building up a question.
No, I'm just doing comments.
Oh, you're not. So, what I was wanting to ask you, I noticed, as with a couple of guests now, when you started playing music, David, you went through the St. Rochs, did you?
Aye, the St. Rochs branch of the Cultus organisation, yeah.
And there's quite a few musicians coming through that now that we're noticing in later years that are becoming, members. Did you find that good to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It was such a great. It's such a great project, and not project. It's a great institution now, sort of thing. And my dad's from Dublin, and sort of didn't give me a choice when I was about 6 or 7. He's like, "You're going to learn the penny whistle up at."
Oh, that was it. Was it?
Yeah, I know. There was no like question about it. It's like, this is going to happen, and the way that St. Rochs is run by a maths teacher, an ex-maths teacher from the school. When I say St. Rochs, I mean like the evening sort of like kids classes teaching kids Irish music, and that's part of our larger organisation called Cultus Cultori Éireann, based in Ireland.
Right.
And the point of that is to encourage Irish music and language throughout the world. And they're so great at bringing young people in and teaching them really simply the penny whistle and getting them playing tunes. And then after a few years, you'll move to a different instrument, and it doesn't cost. I mean, when I went there, I think you paid £1 for the hire of the building, the floor. And all the teachers, they don't take any money for it, because lots of them have come through the
ranks.
Yeah, and the standard is really, really high, obviously. And there's people who went to that music group who had basically pretty much all of them, if they wanted to do music professionally, could have done so. I mean, the standard is that high, and
it's a wonderful thing, isn't it, when you get people that are so dedicated that they want to pass on the talents, etc. And I remember up here in Shetland, or maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, one of the schools I go to, just a wee primary school, and there was a chap up from Glasgow doing his probationary year or something in the school, and he played the whistle a bit. So he got all the kids playing the whistle, and that year they managed to enter the school's music festival as a wee whistle group, about 10 of them all playing 2 or 3 tunes together.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when he left and went back to Glasgow or something, that was the kind of end of that. It was a flash in the pan, once-off thing. But had there been an organisation here to keep that going, that would have kept going.
Yeah.
And it just shows you one person, good person, is all it takes to keep something going. You know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, what's kind of amazing about that branch of Cultus is that it's generation. It was generational when I was there. You know, there are people who had learned when they were kids, and their kids had learned, and now people's kids are still of my age. I've got kids now, and they're learning there, and it's not just about it's about learning music and playing music, but what comes with that group is this amazing sense of community, and the parents are really involved, and you go away to competitions, and everyone stays, like, goes and has fun, and goes to festivals and travels around Ireland in the summer, and everyone is really, really encouraging, or most people are really encouraging. Can't think of any that aren't. But it's a community. It's a total community, and I haven't been there for a while, but basically, I mean, pretty much, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now without that community. And the other thing about it is that it's an amazing group of people and pals, and that was one of the things that I sort of was really, really, that made me stay, was that I made great friends there, and you bonded with your friends who play music, but also just hanging out and sharing, you know. So it was it's a brilliant thing, and I don't think it exists everywhere. It's a very special one. I mean, there's lots of great projects and great places for kids to learn music, and the Fèis movement is really good. But and I don't know many people working in the Fèis movement very well right now in different Fèises, but I know people have come through it, and although it's a great thing, I don't think it's still different to what St. Roch's has, and there's other Cultus branches in Glasgow as well. There's one sitting in Coatbridge, and other places too that are great as well. So it's a fantastic thing.
Because we had somebody on once that went to the Coatbridge one as well, absolutely. But it's interesting, there's a fellow, Joe Nicholson there, he's in Orkney, and he's just said, we have something like that in Kirkby, and I've actually tutored it there when it's called the Orkney Traditional Music Project. And it's like accordion, fiddle, whistles, and they bring it out all together. But the St. Roch's one's kind of a weekly thing that happens all the time, and goes on and on and on. And Orkney had one, but very much the same there, though. They've got a lot of tutors that are quite willing to give up their time and teach the youngsters, etc., etc. And then when we were down on a wee tour there not long ago with the band and playing at some accordion fiddle clubs, I remember we played at a couple of clubs and there wasn't that many youngsters playing or anything like that. And then we went up to Wick Club, and gee whiz, it was bursting at the seams with youngsters wanting to play, because there's people up there teaching like Gordon Gunn and Addy Harper and all these people, and they're putting all this time into it, and the kids are just buzzing up there. So it's great to see that, though, that such an organisation can survive in a great big city as well and still bring through so many people. You know, it's good.
Yeah, well, it's not just it's like it's a community as well of people who become friends, bring more friends in, you know, and so it's part of people's lives, which is kind of the thing about being in Glasgow. And sometimes I get jealous of people maybe from the Highlands or from Shetland or Orkney or wherever, who have got like a very tangible tradition, and there are, you know, like, this is how we play in this place, and this is the history, and this is the person I learned from, they learned from so and so, and you can sometimes feel a bit, if you're from Glasgow, you can feel a bit left out, because although Glasgow is great and it's like a melting pot of all these different things, and it's like the heart, you could say, of like modern traditional music, perhaps. It's we don't have that back, but in St. Roch's, in the Irish minstrels, they have so many connections with different musicians elsewhere as well, that you have great people coming in as guest tutors, and different things, and that
That's
was, you know, that's kind of the closest thing that I had to it, and it was extremely beneficial and fun.
I've got I noticed by Todd, one of your listeners, putting in, we need more schools getting involved in music, and yeah, that would be all wonderful. But as we all know, just now, money's getting cut back and cut back and cut back, so it's actually harder to have it in schools all the time.
Well,
so things like the St. Rock's, great, because it's out with school if you can. So.
Well, I actually think that although music in schools is really important, I think one of the most important things is having parents who are encouraging kids. It's
Very
like
much.
you can have kids. I've taught in loads of schools over my time, and it doesn't mean a thing if the parents aren't encouraging them. And it doesn't need to be traditional music. Traditional music is really easy to learn and to learn a tune, but it's a great way of getting into music. But
I know as a tutor, you're really struggling without parental support coming through.
Yeah,
you're absolutely
and there's lots of great teaching projects and organizations that are aimed at, you know, getting as many kids as they can to play music, but there's not many that are geared towards like sort of merit or talent based things, and it's not like you shouldn't. What that does is it sort of lets kids who maybe don't have as much money or not have as much support, it leaves them by the wayside, because, you know, middle class kids are always going to have their parents being, isn't it great that Tommy can play music or Quentin can play the cello? But, you know, kids that don't have that and the money behind them, they need, you know, but then where's the money going to come from?
Exactly. Yeah. So difficult, doesn't it? But anyway, listen, a track of music, Davey. I think we need to let people know what we're speaking about here.
Yes, here's a track from what looks to be the Trad Award in 2008.
So this one was, I think, I don't know, 2008. So was I like what, 17 or 16 or 17? My flute is really out of tune here. It's super sharp. And,
all right.
And in this group of people are loads of people who are much better than I am at music. But this is a group of friends and of people who were at St. Rock's at the same time as me back then. So,
but folk, don't worry about this. If it sounds super sharp, it's actually, we'll just blame it on the internet.
It's not me. It's the internet.
It's fine.
The internet singled me out in this video. But everyone else, I thought everyone else was fine. But I thought it might be fun to put on.
But the internet's like that. It does unpredictable things.
She's a cruel mistress.
Here we go.
Fantastic. Great. Just on a quick word on that, staying away St. Roch's, then have you ended up tutoring yourself then, David, for them?
Yeah, I tutored ages ago. I mean, I sort of when I went to uni, I thought I didn't have enough time. I thought I'd go really into my music and stuff, and then I stopped doing it, and that actually wasn't the case, and I ended up being quite selfish and just going to the pub all the time. So, but I do have a 9-month-old son, and when he gets to maybe 3.5, I think I'm going to bring him up to learn the penny whistle, maybe 4. Top.
Penny whistle, is he getting no option either? Penny whistle.
Oh yeah, everyone starts in the penny whistle. There's no other way.
Is he going to start on a high G or an E flat? Is he?
Oh no! I bought him his first flute the other day.
Fantastic.
Look at that.
Are you sure that wasn't just a flute you wanted and you used that excuse? It's a bit like buying a railway set for,
Might be true. Might be true.
Yeah. Listen, folks, this is wonderful. We've got David Foley on tonight, and could you keep sharing about? There's some wonderful comments coming in. Keep your comments coming in. We love to see the comments coming in. It's always really nice. If there's any questions, nice questions within reason you want to ask, please ask them. That's great. David, staying just with St. Roch's before we start moving on to other stuff, you won the World Baran Championships when you were with them. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of hard to explain if you're not in it. Well, it's not that hard, but so in Coltis you have in Ireland and Coltis, where it's from, you have 3 different competitions. You have your county, then you have your I've now forgotten it, what it's called, the county, and then you have your province. And then there's the All Ireland, right? So you have so if you're in Antrim, you have the Antrim Fla, then the Ulster Fla, and then you have the All Ireland Fla. In Britain you have, in Scotland you have the All Scotland, which is basically Glasgow, because there's none outside Glasgow. The Irish didn't make it outside of Glasgow in Scotland. Well, they did, but not many of them. So the All Scotland, then the All Britain, and then the All Ireland. And it's kind of counterintuitive because you think that Britain is bigger than Ireland, but obviously not in the terms of how many Irish musicians there are. So when you win an All Ireland, it's like it's basically a world championship, because there's folk that come in from all over the world. But to be fair, it's like I think I won it when I was like 15. So it's not. It's a bit dated now. And then I then went and lost.
What I was interested in, I remember we had Martin Donohoe, the accordion player, once, and he was talking about the flaws, etc., and telling us how the fla worked and the accordion. And I take it the accordion is just the same kind of idea, the same structure. And then, but with the Baran, then how do you sit down and compete with a Baran? I mean, what are you judged on, or what happens?
It depends on, so in every category, you have like under 12 to 15, 15 to 18, and then seniors just over 18. And every time you get up in age group, there's maybe a little bit more is asked of you in terms of what you're playing material wise. So you might start playing a jig and a reel, and then you'd be playing a jig and a reel and something else, a hornpipe, and then you'd be playing then. But basically the way that we always prepared for it, or we were told, this is what you want you to play, is that you basically accompany the tune in a way that is mimicking the melody as much as possible. So, but it's not a case of, sort of like playing the melody on the bowing. And there's also, there's some leeway, presumably, with like what you can do, as long as it sounds good and technique and everything.
So it's kind of freestyle in a way, though. Everybody can interpret their own playing that they want to play it. Yeah,
as long as you interpret it in a way that the judges are going to, or Coltis thinks is traditional.
Here's the catch. Maybe here's the catch. It's like the pipe band world.
Yeah, but that's their prerogative. They're there to sort of, this is the way we think it should be, or the way that we like it. So, if you don't do it that way, then why are you there?
But I think that's quite a good thing as well, because it keeps your feet on the ground of where the trad music came from. So.
You could argue that. I mean, there's lots of things that they might say is traditional, that isn't traditional. Like the banjo is not a traditional Irish instrument. There is the or the flutes they play in Ireland are based on flutes that are made in London in the 19th century that were only classical music. So, but they've come into the tradition. So it's like, what do you call it? But just do what you do and have fun doing it.
Yeah, brilliant. Rura, where did Rura come about?
Rura came about when we were in university. So the majority of us, we studied at the RCS along with lots of other people in the folk scene, and
David, for all our audience out there all over the world, has just shown how young he is by calling it the RCS, because I knew it was the Academy. So,
well, I actually I knew it was the Academy as well. I think it changed the RCS in the last year we were there.
Right, okay. So you got both. You're one of the
yeah.
both.
So it was a crossover.
And you went in when you were 16-year-old.
I was 16. I think we started in when did you start? September, I think, is when you start uni, and then I turned 17 in the October. But it sounds better if you say 16, doesn't it? Right. But it meant that I was underage for the first 2 freshers weeks. So I sort of had to. I basically lived in the Ben Nevis bar playing tunes at the session there, getting fed drink by the other musicians. So by
a hose pipe somewhere or something.
That would have maybe been on the cards. But yeah, so Rura came from myself and the fiddle player and the piper were in the same year at uni, and we all wanted to start a band. That was kind of like, that's when you're a teenage boy, it's kind of like, I want to be in a band and I want to be in a folk band or whatever, and so we did that, and then actually Katrina Watt, the singer from Lewis, was the person that came up with the name Rura. And despite us, none of us speaking Gaelic,
what does it mean?
So it's basically, so it's not a word that's used everywhere.
Right, okay.
It's not a Gaelic word that's used everywhere, and it's usually spelled RU with an accent over the U, then -RA. And there was a band called, I can't remember the name of the band. There's a band in the early 2000s or something that had an album called Rura, and right. Basically what it means is, it's like if you go into the best way I heard it described is when you go into a party and there's sort of everything is sort of like jumping, and it's a bit of a mess or something, but it's a good mess. And in Ireland they have one called Rira, and funnily enough, some Swedish friends of mine, when I used to play in Sweden, they were asking, where does Rura come from? What does it mean? And I explained as I explained to you, and they're saying, no way, that's what it means. That we like Rura. We say that here, Rura. So probably Vikings. With everything, it's probably Vikings.
Up here as well, a good mess, we'd call it a happy Slester. That's another thing we would call it when we went, if you're in a Slester.
It doesn't really roll off the tongue though, Peter, for a band.
No, it's not a great thing, but fantastic. Right, are we going to have a track here, David? Tell us all about it.
We're going to have Sorleys from the 2011 Festival Club of Celtic Connections.
Our first outing.
Wow.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember Fran Healy was actually like standing in the front row for most of the 20 minutes we were there, and I was like, who the heck is that guy? And then
I know him.
I know who that guy is. And it was the singer from Travis. It was really weird, but I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna like ask us to play with him. Nah, never heard of him.
But maybe he nicked some of your ideas though. You don't know.
He's got plenty of better ideas than we ever had, I'd say.
I wouldn't say.
Here we go.
Amazing dancing down the.
Excellent.
I just realised you could see a really young Moss and Amini in the jumping up there at the end with no facial hair or anything.
Now that would never have been him. That would never have been him jumping up, surely.
A few questions. Question number one: is that the original lineup?
Yeah, no, that's actually not.
No.
The original lineup was like 2 gigs, and it was it was you had a piano player initially, a guy called Craig Muirhead from Stirling.
Craig.
You know,
Yeah,
Craig,
well,
Piper. So he played the piano with us. So I think we then fuck it, we'll just get a guitar player, and then that was our second accompanist, Chris Waite from the Borders.
Yeah.
But that's like the original sort of lineup, as you could say.
Kind of cool. That's when we had Chris on as a guest, and we've had Craig on as a guest as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's quite strange to see Chris back in his previous form before he lost all the weight.
I know he's running marathons now. He's very fit.
He's a silly man. Very silly man.
Silly. I couldn't do that. No.
And he was sitting in front of us at the Trad Awards, just looking too fit.
Yeah.
He's almost stood in my too fit.
Yeah.
So Rule has been going for 12 years now?
Yeah, 12 or 13 years, yeah.
And how many albums is that now?
I think I think we're just about to release our 4th studio album.
Great. You hearing this, ladies and gentlemen? Exclusive look at that, and there's the cover.
Yeah, that's it there. And we've also got we did a live one, and we did a sort of collaboration smaller album with some people who we thought were really cool, and we still think are really cool because they did it.
Oh, that's good. I thought they were going to say you didn't think they were very cool anymore.
Oh no, they're very good. So
are all these albums still available on your website?
You know, I think that most of them are. I think the first one isn't, because we did that through Green Tracks record label with Ian Green, who and that is sort of worth mentioning, actually, him, because I think Jack emailed him, the fiddler emailed him, and just on the off chance he said, "Hey, do you want to give us a record deal?" And which sounds strange saying that in folk music, like a record deal. And he said, "Aye, sounds good." And then I remember him coming we were playing Leith Folk Club, and he came out and said, "Oh, Ian's just got back, and he says he'll do a record deal with us." And I was like, "Oh, cool, that's amazing." And so had that not happened, I don't know, because we would have been very lost, like young people were. I think we were still in university. Yeah. And the folk scene and the professional musicians seemed like we were very far away from that, and we didn't know. We knew some people, but not the big famous musicians. We were just young guys. So that one is not available on our website, and I don't know where you can get that one from, but we don't sell it because we can't make any money out of it, because we have to pay him too much for the units. So maybe one day we could convince him if we can buy the rights back off him for pressing it and all that. But no one. It's maybe out there. I did see one in HMV once for like £25, and I was like, my God, who's going to spend £25 on a CD? And that was about 5 or 6 years ago. So no one's going to spend that now.
Can I just jump back a tiny wee bit? There was something I meant to mention that I forgot there. Derek Owen, Piper Derek, had put in a comment earlier there, David, saying that he was learning the brand just now, and he wondered if David knew of any good tuition in about the Glasgow area.
I'll teach him.
There you go, Derek.
Send me a Facebook message.
Get David a Facebook message, Derek. There you go. You can't get better than that. There we go. So that's fine. There we go. That's excellent. That's what this show's all about. Is getting contact.
That's couple of pairs of shoes for the Bairn.
Indeed, yeah. That's his first accordion getting chipped away at.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's brilliant.
So you mentioned you played a bit in Scandinavia.
Uh-huh.
And that leads us to our next reference. Is it Valdens?
Well, I say Valdens, but they call it Vadens over there.
So
and,
tell us about it.
Right, I'll. It's kind of not a long story, but when I was 19, I was convinced to go over to Sweden. In Sweden, they have this kind of music camp called Ethno, and it's a music camp.
It's a terrible drag, isn't it? Nobody, when they're 19-year-old, wants hauled over to Sweden to have to go there.
I know. Well, we got. So I can't remember who told me I should go. I think it was a friend, it was a fiddle player, a friend of mine from Edinburgh, and she was going over a bunch of folk that she knew. She said, "Come on over," and blah blah blah. And it was quite reasonable. It wasn't too expensive. And I was like, "Okay, that's kind of a good crack." And what you do is you go to this school in the kind of the highlands of Sweden, in rural Sweden, and you're given a mattress and a pillow and a duvet. He said, "Great, go find a room." So you go find a room, and on the rooms it's like different, like people who want to make friends and people who want to go to bed early and all this kind of thing. So you end up sort of jumping in with like random people. And the point about it is that they get folk from all around the world going. So there's a lot of Scandinavians that go, and there's some folk from the UK and Ireland that go. But all over Europe, and there was some Indian folk, people from Africa, North American, and the point is that everyone teaches everyone else a piece of music from their home country, right. And that's part of the structured day, which is you have an hour doing this, everyone learns that, and then they go to this, and then outside of the structured sort of like just sharing music and teaching each other, there's people just are learning tunes all the time, playing music together, singing songs. And so that's what that was, and that was really successful in Sweden, and then now Ethno has grown, and I believe that there's lots of different sort of camps with this kind of like inclusive, like musically inclusive ethos all around the world. I believe that the Swedish one was the first to happen, and it's been going for about 20 or 30 years possibly. So anyway, when I was at that, I met lots of lovely people, lots of friends, and there was a group of Swedish musicians there, a band called Kolonien, which means colony in English. They applied for some funding a few years later, and the idea was that we would go and play at schools and universities around Stockholm where they stayed. And the idea was that they'd fly people over, we'd go to this big house and we'd arrange music and we'd share music, and we would do that sort of in Ethno. What they do is you have somebody playing a tune from Norway, and then that segued into someone playing a Syrian dulcimer or whatever it is, and then there's an Indian sitar player who plays a solo over it, and then an African guy comes along with some drums and does his thing, and it's sort of it's blending, and it's very stylistic. After a while, you sort of like gets that. So that's the kind of thing that you do, and then it would be going to do workshops and kind of performances in universities or high schools as well, and that was the idea, was that it's like, I believe at the time there was this fear of this rising xenophobia in Sweden, and they got funding from the government to be like, look, here we are, we're all friends and we're all different colors and we all play different music, and isn't that great? And it was great. It was really fun. And then the band evolved into doing festivals and doing tours and playing in normal venues and concert venues. And the reason that I was chosen was because we made friends with the people there, and they wanted to have musicians that they liked and musicians that they liked playing with. So that's what happened. And the track is it Kello, the track that's on now. So this is a guy leading this track is a guy called Abdu Sissoko, who's I've forgotten the name of it now. African harp, kora. He's a kora player and singer from Senegal, and he was working in Sweden actually as a dishwasher. He'd moved over to Sweden to become a dishwasher and send his money back to his family. And he's a great musician, and he's actually related to there's a kora player singer called Sekou Keita who's really famous over here. And Abdu, although being 10 years his junior, is his uncle or something like that. They're a huge, big Muslim family in Senegal, and a huge griot sort of. A griot is like a tradition bearer, big griot family, and yeah, so he was invited in, and then in this track there's a wee tune that I had written that went with it, and you'll see this all the different people do our. And it was a big band, it's like 15 people. Very, very, very expensive to tour. Only possible in Scandinavia.
Yeah, there we go. Collaboration to its fullest coming your way, folks. Here we go.
Here we go.
Kilu warul joy som fi joy lulu ne huma ayo kilu bambo warul joy bambo haitu yai kilu warul joy le.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. By the way, nice to see Katie Robertson back. I think Katie's been doing school exams and things. I was wondering where she's been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But there we go. She's back. David, I dearly wish there was more money about that we could have the chance to put creative, artistic minds together like that in this country and do that kind of things, because that's an incredible result when you put all these people together, and it's a great buzz, and it's beautiful music.
I think it does. I think it does happen, but it's harder to do. It's easier to do in some countries where there's a lot of immigration from lots of different places. Scotland doesn't have that much immigration from anywhere, really. But yeah, there's lots of projects like that do happen. It's just that, like every project, it's hard to get off the ground, isn't it?
When did the flute come along? And was that a kind of natural progression after the whistles? Was it?
So I wanted to play the accordion, and because the guy, the man,
hear that, Davey? Do you hear that, Davey? You wanted to play the accordion, Davey?
Well, it didn't happen. But the reason why was because the man that ran the St. Roch's music group, a guy called Frank McCardle, played the accordion. And I thought the accordion's really cool. It's big, it's loud. And my dad was just like, oh, can I have this? So he said to me, I was in the corridor of the school on the Tuesday night of the class, and he said, I can't remember who it was, but he said it's like one of the older kids who had an accordion. He said to me, he's like, right, come here. He said, David, pick up that accordion and walk to the end of the hall and walk back. And I was like, okay. And I walked to the end of the hall, walked back, and he's like, do you still want to play the accordion? I was like, nah. he said, he's like, good, because I'm not carrying it for you. So
I once saw a face sticker that said on it, play it, I can hardly lift it, and that makes absolute sense now, doesn't it?
So he said, what about something lighter like the flute? And I was like, aye, that'll do. So brilliant. I got he bought me my first flute, or maybe my gran bought me my first flute when I was 10.
Right.
That's when I started playing the flute.
Okay, wooden flute then. So educate me here with wooden flute. Is there many makers in Scotland, or have you got yours for Ireland? Or
there's one maker called George Ormiston, who's sort of the main flute maker, the biggest flute maker, the most popular flute maker in Scotland. I think that I met a chap called Derek, I'm now forgetting his second name, who made flutes in Orkney.
Oh yes, I know.
What's Derek's second name?
I can't remember.
I had a chance to play one of his flutes up in Orkney, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. But I was like, I'll buy one, but it's not keyed. I need a keyed flute. Okay. But other than that, I don't think there's many, or there's any of note in Scotland. But there's more dotted around the world and stuff.
And an interesting thing with yourself playing guitar as well, and you'll be playing guitar more in the accompaniment fashion, I would imagine sometimes.
Oh yeah, only accompaniment. I can't do any solo stuff.
Which brought up a really interesting. We had a conversation this afternoon, myself talked this, and sometimes you get some musicians that are only purely lead players, like a flute player or a fiddle player or something like that. And they, not everyone. I'm not putting everyone into this, but a lot of them don't really have that much idea what's going on behind them. It's just kind of like somebody's playing along with me, somebody's accompanying me, and that's it. But whereas yourself, you can play the accompaniment as well. Do you think that's an advantage when you go to write stuff melodic wise and that? Do you write from the chords side as well, or do you?
Well, it's funny because I mean, so I play. So the instruments that I play, like you say, like the melody on the flute, and then I play rhythm on the bowrin and
Yeah.
chords on the guitar. But I mean, I I only think really in terms of melody,
Do you?
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Okay.
partly because because I grew up playing melody. With I picked up the bowrin when I was like 13 or 14 maybe, so I'd been playing the whistle and flute before that, and then I picked up the guitar, I think around it was about 14 or 15, so a bit after, and
Mhm.
I learned the chords in the guitar. And actually, you know, going back, remember I was telling you about how you would play the Baran in the Colts competitions,
Mhm. Mhm.
talking about you'd mimic the melody.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was always going through my head when I was playing the Baran or Bowrin. And then when it came to playing the guitar, you know, it was like I had a few lessons of different people, and they showed me some chord progressions and different chords. And then, but genuinely, my chordal knowledge is absolutely dire. Like, I mean, I play like the same stuff.
3.
No, maybe not three, but I don't. I honestly, I wouldn't be able. If someone played you a chord that had more than, I'd be like, that's a major chord, that's a minor chord.
Uh-huh.
Anything about, I mean, 4 years of university education, I was incredibly lazy, and I just did what I wanted to do, and I could have got a lot more out of it. But when you talk about how does it help me with like writing or arranging or anything like that, it really doesn't, because
Yeah.
I don't know what it is,
Aye.
and it's like, and even with rhythm, it's like, you know, Martin O'Neill taught me the bowrin, and I was not his best student. He's like a percussion, like he's one of my favorite bowrin players. Probably, I think he's the best bowrin player of all time, and his style and the way he taught was kind of contrary to how I internally. I understood a lot of it, but like for instance, when you're learning percussion and it's like you count something, and it's like I can't count these beats. It's like I could, if it's like an irregular thing, I'm like I can kind of work out what it is. But if it gets complicated, I'm like, nah, I'm sorry, I can't count this. If it's like where in this pattern is this happening, I'm just like, it's that note.
Yeah.
It's the note
But-
there. But then
But
it's
you'd
like,
be able
it's not the
to
beat.
play it by ear, though. You'd be able to play that
So
by ear.
So that's the thing, is like,
Yeah.
I was always good at picking up things like that by ear. Maybe not anymore in terms of I've sort of fallen out of that habit of learning tunes every day. But like if, for instance, someone played me a tune on the bowrin, I would sort of quite easily be able to, as long as it was in, you know, like the folk tradition. You know, if it was something that was quite alien to me, then it'd be different. But it quite easy to pick up that kind of thing, and so that's how I thought. That's how I think about it. And even playing chords, you know, it's like I play quite simplistic stuff, but I have to like really work at it to work out what, if it's something that's like not just a standard tune. I'm like, okay, I need to actually figure out what this is.
I quite like the way the SQA is working just now and things. I mean, I teach music in schools too and things, but one thing I do really appreciate is they've brought that in, that people can play by ear and things like that now. It's not quite so snotty that you had to have a big sheet of music in front of you. You had to play in 7/8 because that bar said 7/8. And it's getting a bit more free and relaxed, and especially with traditional music, because as we all know, traditional music's handed down for one to one to one, and it's very much, you know, I don't know. You self-interpret it to yourself when it comes along. So how can you be expected to play something that's just written down and everybody play the same? Traditional music wouldn't work like that. It doesn't totally work like that. So.
Well, I think it's a skill, and you know, if you learn a skill, then you can use that skill.
Exactly.
And if you don't, then you don't. But what you do by not learning that skill is you then cut yourself off from opportunities. And if I, for instance, if my chordal knowledge or harmonic knowledge I'd worked at it more, I mean, there's lots of other things I could be doing. But I was sort of concentrating on this other thing, which meant that I was limited. And it doesn't mean, and so I would say, I mean, that's it's good that I think it's good to recognize tradition in schools, but it's also like, more than is better than less than, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't, but it shouldn't be a hierarchy.
Yeah, no,
and that's one of the things that's interesting about playing with musicians from different cultures. Is that I've like there's so much connection between different traditions and different cultures and the way that we do things. But what's amazing is playing with African musicians is like I have got no idea what is going on, and they know exactly what's going on, and I used to get really annoyed with this, and it was this thing. It was like, but what beat are you? I was like, but what bar is that? What's happening here? Like, and then I found I was trying to push my sort of Western education of music, even though limited as it is, but traditional music is within sort of Western music, so there are more similarities with what we do in classical music, or you could say that, than there is between that or what we do in African music, or some of it at least anyway. And anyway, so I don't know how we got here. What am I saying? Music. So it's more than is better than less than, and recognition is good than none.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're on to another video. You obviously play in Rura with Jack Smedley, and we're going to have a track from yourselves. It's called Drift Park Road Sessions.
Yeah, so that was the tune is called Drift, and we did it in my old flat's front room on Park Road. But we were sort of like, should we just call it something to make it sound cooler? And we thought calling it the Park Road Sessions, because we did a few videos, would sound cool. And I never met anyone who said it was cool, but I never met anyone who said it wasn't. So
that'll do.
Let the music do the talking.
Lovely piece of music, David. Lovely. And you
So the
must get an
question
award.
there,
You get an award for tying Jen Butterworth to do a session again. She must be one of the busiest people in the world.
Yeah, she is very, very busy.
question for you. I take it you had to clear the living room out and all your stuff's behind the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, we did indeed.
It was working all right.
Those
to the
look
Butler
no
X
objects back there.
Middleman.
Oh, dear me.
Oh, very good.
So that kind of brings us up to date, really, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
But you've recently been playing with Ryan. What's Ryan's surname again?
Young.
Young?
Like Ryan Young. Jeez, a long day. Ryan Young, and this is probably the most up-to-date video we can get for you. Was it you said 2 weeks ago?
I think so, yeah. End
wow.
of January.
We had Ryan on as a guest about a month ago, and he went down a storm as well.
You did. Fantastic. Which is why we then followed up with yourself to get you on. But before we get there, going forward, you've got a new album with Aurora, as you mentioned, but you're also going on tour in March.
Yes, we are. We are on tour. We're hooring and touring all around the UK.
You've got... So you start on March the 9th.
Uh-huh.
In...
Right, hold on. Let me get my diary out.
It's okay, I'll do it for you.
Is it first? Is that the first gig? So it is. Aye. I've got in my diary. I've got my diary Edinburgh, and beneath that it says van pickup.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Are you driving?
We're in Edinburgh in summer.
David, remember to do the gig in Edinburgh, not in the van.
Yes, we'll try. I'll try to remember that. Yeah. So we've got Edinburgh in the summer hall, and then the next day we're up to Strontian, and then we are driving all the way across the country to Aberdeen.
Oh boy,
from Strontian, which should be fun.
West to east.
Yeah.
And then
the next weekend we're back up Strontian. We were in Arisaig. We go Arisaig, Skye, and then Stirling. And then on Sunday we return the van.
Okay.
And then after that we've got
Remember to take all your gear out. And just...
Always do.
Yeah. But do you not agree? One thing is, if you can survive up the west coast of Scotland, you're going to survive anywhere.
It is a wild and lonely place up there. It's a wild and lonely place.
Well, men and sheep are scared.
Well, maybe the sheep are more scared over the east coast over in Aberdeen.
I would say that. Yeah, I would say that.
That's what I've heard. And then so then the last week of the month we were down in London, and then around the south of England. And actually, do you know what? We're not. We're up and down. It's the routing is kind of a bit annoying because we're doing one gig, 6 hours drive, and the next day 4 hours drive, 5 hours drive. But the things we love the road.
Yeah, how do the gigs like to go in London and that? Good? You enjoy them?
Good, yeah, London is great. It's a venue that we've returned to quite a few times, so you can build up a wee fan base and everything. And they put on lots of folk gigs as well. And I see you've got our URL up there. You can check out where we're playing. And we are playing a home gig actually in April in Glasgow on the 8th of April. So if you're in Glasgow, we're playing in St. Luke's in Glasgow.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
There you go, folks. Go along and support the band if you can. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful night.
Anything else planned for the rest of the year?
Just the normal sort of festival things. I'm looking at the diary because I don't know what's happening.
Davey, he's got a 9-month-old baby, so there's a lot of things got to come along that he had never planned for, believe me.
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically, I don't know what's happening. It's like I actually looked, I was like, what's happening next week? So I had to pull out my diary. It's like, oh, that's happening, right? Okay, should work out what's going on there. Just the normal sort of festival things and trying to punt this album as much as possible. And lots and lots of hopefully fun things too.
Wait till the wee one's about 6, 7-ish as well, and then you have to become a taxi driver as well.
Yeah, well,
you have to fit that in.
I did actually recently buy what my fiance calls a loser cruiser. which was section C for Picasso. I need room because when I buy it, because I remember when I was wee, used to, you'd end up going and playing music with different folk, and then they'd all end up in the car. So my mum and dad would take me and three others or whatever in their car, all the instruments in the back, going here, there, and everywhere. I was like, need to prepare here for all the.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right.
Well, I've got, as you probably know, I've got a 1-year-old now, and I decided to buy a Sea Torona because it's slightly bigger than what we have, and same sort of idea. Get it in the back of the van.
Well, when Karen was talking another car there, but I still wanted to keep a hold of my old Ford Galaxy because it's wonderful, and the amount you can get packed into it's wonderful. So
yeah. Well, that's
and you can sleep in it. You can actually sleep in the Galaxy if you miss a ferry. Really? You can just sleep in the back. It's quite cool.
To those of you that have just joined us tonight, this is not Top Gear.
There's really not. Although I did start watching the second series of Clarkson's Farm. Speaking of Top Gear.
Oh, I've not seen that yet.
Yeah, it's not as good as the first series so far, but it's quite fun. It's quite good.
Right.
So, what we'll do, we'll let you go and deal with the one. And we're going to play out with this track from Celtic Connections. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, David. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And
thanks for coming on a Sunday night when you could have been out having a fish supper.
There's still time.
There's still time.
No, in Shetland, there's no.
That's funny.
I need to get a 20-minute ferry and then another 40-minute journey before the first chippy.
Oh god! Well, actually, funny. My local chippy just around the corner is called Tartan.
Right.
Tartan chippy. So Tartan tunes. I should have got a Tartan chippy.
Sounds good. We'll have to visit sometime when we're done.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
David, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Me, guys. Cheers.
All the best for the year. Cheers, man.
Cheers, you too. All the best.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely wonderful having David on as a guest tonight there. And I don't know, David, do you remember when Ryan was on? Ryan said something that was really, really important to him was having a good accompanist. He really appreciated what somebody can do musically. So there we go. You couldn't go better than that last track there. That was fantastic. Fantastic.
It's as if we planned it.
As if we planned it. I noticed there just earlier on Big Rab put us a wee comment on Big Rab Lennox. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you are aware of Big Rab, but there's a podcast called The Big Rab Show. Big Rab, the premier show for the pipe band world, I would say, piping and drumming world. Rab, based out of Northern Ireland, great guy, fantastic crack. And David's known him longer than I have, but we ended up in the same section at the Trad Awards together.
Yeah.
And both of us ended up being bridesmaids. But the thing was, we went out for a meal all together.
Sorry, stop. I've got an image of both you and Big Rab in bridesmaid outfits.
That's something else.
Not nice. It's not nice.
But anyway, we all went out for a meal beforehand. So that shows you, ladies and gentlemen, what the crack's like in this old musical world that we're in. We weren't really in competition. We were quite happy to see each other winning it, to be honest. So, but we went out and had a night. So Rab grabbed Davey at one point and said, what about you lads coming on the show? Because we had Rab as a guest on Tartan Tunes, maybe a while ago now.
A year ago now.
A while ago, yeah. So we did. We accepted his offer and we had a blether. Was it weeks ago with Rab?
Week past Friday?
Something like that. So it's on Rab's show this Wednesday night, is it? The podcast this Wednesday?
Wednesday or Thursday he launches the podcast, yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday. So what we'll do is if we get the details for Rab for the link, we'll fire it onto Tartan Tunes for you and you can watch us being interrogated for a change.
Well, you can listen to us being interrogated. It's not video, unfortunately.
Oh, is it not in video, that one? No, it's
just audio. It's fine.
Audio. But you can listen to us being interrogated rather than us interrogating.
Yeah, to be fair, that low-cut V-neck dress you're wearing was a bit discerning.
So I went to all that effort for nothing.
I think the makeup was enough effort, to be fair. That red lipstick was a bit...
What was wrong with it? It was like slightly wrong shade or something.
I think you're looking for the wrong clientele.
The Big Rab Show. They said it was the Big Rab Show. I thought it was the big Rab being big show. No.
Listen to the show.
Maybe. Listen to the show. Right. Anyway, so Sunday watch out for Through the Week, folks. Piping and drumming and whatever else. Just watch the Tartan Tunes one. It'll be great for Rab to get some of the other audience over because I think you'll really enjoy that show as well.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and if any of his folks want to come on and watch us, that's magic. That's good.
Next week.
Next week. Yes. Have you got your phone? Mine's just died.
Don't leave a phone. I know from head.
Good man.
Next week, we have the fantastic flautist and whistle player. 2 for 2. We've got Tina Jordan-Rees.
So, we've had the second flautist on ever this week, and we've got the third one on next week.
Yeah, I didn't plan that well, to be fair. But yeah, it's fine.
The world's getting overtaken by flautists.
Well, to be fair, we had fiddle, accordion for
yeah, we've had lots and lots of fiddle, accordion. So I'm looking for Tina's going to be great. That's great. So we'll get lots of good tunes next week again, folks.
Yes,
we shall keep the guests. And it was great. We got another guest from Canada yesterday that's going to be coming on as well. Oh, what's this? Tina's tune book. Ah, I've not seen that one yet.
Yeah, more on that later.
All right, more on that next week. Yeah, and with a guest for Canada confirming for a couple of months, and that's going to be really nice.
He's not from Canada, he's from Cardenden.
Oh, he's from Cardenden, but lived in Canada most of his life. Yeah. One of the world's best pipe band drummers coming on for you some night as well. So it's all different. It's all going to be good. I'm not telling you who it is.
Before we go, I'd like to say congratulations to Mark Smith and his partner Laura, who have just announced being engaged.
Fantastic.
Well, engaged last week, but yeah, they've just announced.
I haven't.
Chris
Matt was a previous guest on the show,
a good friend of mine.
and I've not seen him up here for ages actually, because he's working in youth services now or something like that, and I've not seen him for a wee while. He was working at security at the airport for a wee while. The airport up at the north, but they closed the airport, so that was the end of that. So, not because of him, but oh yes, it was. No, we're only kidding, Matt. Congratulations. We'll see you at some point.
And on that note,
that's about us. Right, I'm away to get another sleep. I'm still catching up on this COVID sleep, I think. It's either that or just old age. Is it old age, man? It's just old age.
hopefully this blocked sinuses thing clears tomorrow.
It's not good. I've had it for about a week now. Anyway, you folks take care out there. If you get anything, bide in and take it easy. Put your feet up. Drink Lucozade. Things like that.
Catch up on Netflix.
Catch up on that. On Tartan Tunes. You can go back to Tartan Tunes channel. Right, we'll see you later, folks. Good night. Thanks, David. All the best to the families. All the best, folks out there. Take care. Good night.
Hi, Kava.